Hello my loves, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to film another what I'm reading in this season, and we're currently in spring 2023. So I thought it'd be fun to share with you what I've been reading, what I've been loving, my takeaways, all that good stuff. So let's get into it. So the first two books I want to talk about, I don't actually have the physical books because one I was borrowing from a friend and another I got from the library. So that's just another friendly reminder to borrow books or go to your local library. Such easy and free and I guess you could say eco-conscious way to read books, to read more books. I love doing that, and it feels like an exchange of energy a little bit too. But the first one I read from the library was The Holographic Universe. Now this was a trippy book. You guys know that I love trying to figure out like the big questions of our world, like what is reality? Why are we here? What's the purpose of it all? I mean, some of you may not be interested in that, but that is why I do the work I do. I'm trying to answer those big questions and answer the questions of how we can live our most best aligned, present, fulfilling life. So the holographic universe really uses some scientific study, some personal accounts, some situations to help support this idea that our reality is actually a hologram, and not a hologram like we perceive it in, like, I think of like a haunted house. The old haunted houses we used to go to used to have holograms. I mean, kind of like that, but how our reality is not how we perceive it. Such an interesting, mind-blowing read. I will say it's very dense. It's basically all just like personal accounts and scientific studies. So if that's not your route, I wouldn't recommend that. And what's interesting is I actually didn't finish the book. And I just want to normalize that. Like, how many of you don't finish books that you pick up? And I don't think that's something that should be perceived as negative. I just was getting the nudge from my internal guidance, and I was having trouble taking in the last bit. So I feel like I'm going to go back to that book in the future. Maybe when my mind can comprehend more of it in a different time and space. But I do recommend it if that's something you're interested in. If you're interested in the nature of reality, like, is this a simulation we're in? Is reality different? Kind of a big one to start off with here, but I do recommend that book if that is something you are interested in. Now, the second book I finished this spring, and this probably doesn't surprise you if you listened to my last what I read in the winter, is Practical Magic. And I have to say, I actually enjoy the movie more than the book. I really liked the first book in that series. I'm not sure if it's the first in that series, but The Rules of Magic, which was about the ant story. But Practical Magic is like the movie Practical Magic. It's the book version. I think the movie's better, and I rarely say that. Almost always the book is better than the movie, but I think the movie was better. It just was different, and I don't know, just had a different vibe. But I encourage you to check it out. You guys know I like witchy books over here. I'm a Halloween girl at heart, so it was still fun to read, but I was like, man, the movie is just so good. The book was kind of hard to top that. Now, what's interesting is I have been dabbling a little bit in fiction as well, as you guys know. And this was a book actually my dad sent me. And my dad has sent me some of the best book recommendations out there. So shout out to you, Dad. But this one is also fiction, and it was so interesting. I mean, it's got time travel. It's trying to answer those questions of like, what is reality and why are we here? But it's also fiction, and this was really, really good. I think she's a pretty popular author. I should know more about this, but I do not. And I think one of her other books, oh yeah, The Glass Hotel, or maybe it's Station 11, was made into a show on HBO Max. So I need to check out her other books, but I highly recommend this one. I read it in like 2 days. I rarely do that. I try to read books, as fast as I can, but I could not put this one down. Once I got into, like, it's kind of a strange book how it's set up. It kind of hops around a little bit, but so good. Now, this next book is interesting, and this connects with something I've been talking about on the podcast. And I'm almost hesitant to bring it up because this can be one of those polarizing topics that you're extreme either this way or that way. But I personally have just been getting the nudge for myself, and we each have to tune into ourselves for this answer, to be eating less animal products. Now, I'm not putting a label on this because I'm not doing it perfectly, but I just realized I really don't enjoy the taste of meat. Like, I just don't enjoy it. And I love vegetables. I love colorful meals. So I've been listening to actually Colleen Patrick Gordo's podcast. I think it's called Food for Thought. And she talked about her book, The Joyful Vegan, which she was also on the Ellen Fisher podcast. So I recommend all of those to listen to it if you want to. But this has just been an interesting read. I try to keep an open mind as I'm reading it, because I'm not necessarily putting the label of vegan on myself, because again, I'm not doing this perfectly and I don't want to portray that message that I am, but I'm just drastically reducing the amount of animal products I am consuming. And it's one of those things, once you know, you can't unknow. Like, it's a rabbit hole. And I think that's why a lot of people avoid this topic, is they don't want to know how awful animals are being treated, because it is truly horrific. So I implore you to explore this if you feel called to. I know it can seem scary to go into these topics, but as I go more along my spiritual path, on my aligning path, and this just feels like something that I'm feeling called to do in this time and space, and it makes me really happy. I feel really good. I feel so good eating more plants and whole foods, and it's just fun to explore around with this. And I've been making some really delicious meals. So let me know if you want me to make a video on that journey. It's been interesting, and it is a journey. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I recommend this book if you're interested. She just does a good job of taking you through the steps to do this in a joyful way. And again, take what resonates with you, leave the rest. I always say that. Now, as you guys may or may not know, I went to an Abraham Hicks workshop a few weeks ago. If you don't know who they are, just go explore. It's kind of hard to explain what they are in one video. Just look it up if you're curious. Basically, they're non-physical entities. I went to this workshop. It was amazing. I knew it was going to be so magical. And I've already read one of Abraham Hicks' books, The Law of Attraction, and I recommend listening to that one, actually, because it's a channel, so they're channeling it and you can hear their energy and their vibration. But what was interesting is the next week after I went to this workshop, I was in San Diego in like a used bookstore. It was such a cute little store just right on like the main street of San Diego by Pacific Beach. And they were selling, I think these are used books or like really discounted books. And I just loved the vibe of this place. And of course, what did I see? A book by Abraham Hicks. So I haven't read this one. And I almost want to listen to this one too, but it was calling to me so much, I just had to pick it up. It was super discounted again. Ask and it is given. Learning to manifest your desires. Again, I'm not very far, but already I can tell this is going to be so good. And if you guys don't know this about me, I kind of jump around from books. I'll start a book and then I'll jump to another one and jump to that one. That may stress some of you out, so only do that if it feels right to you. I know some people are read one book, finish it, and then move on to the next one. That's how my husband is. But it feels good to me. I started it in pregnancy for some reason to jump around from books. So I don't know if I'll finish this spring, but I can tell this is going to be one I'm going to go back and read again and again and again. It's just about how you are the creator of your reality and how feeling really good puts you in the state of vibration and puts your energy in the right state to attract all the things that you are desiring. It's just such a radical and simple and profound way to look at life. I've always resonated with Abraham Hicks. Since you're on YouTube, just search Abraham Hicks and maybe a topic you're interested in. Give them a listen and let me know your thoughts. I'd be so curious to know if they resonate with you too. And then the last book I'm reading this spring is The Healing Magic of Forest Bathing. This just seems so timely for spring and the earth is renewing itself. Again, I'm not too close to that many forests right now, but that will be changing soon. Hint, hint, to a major life change. And there are forests in Arizona. You just have to drive a little bit. But I don't think we can deny we feel different when we're in nature. There's just something about it that is so grounding and calming. And I think nature has so much to teach us. And that is what this is about. If you haven't heard of forest bathing before, I just have a general idea and I may be off base as, again, I've just started this book. I'm kind of jumping around again. But I think it's just about going out in nature and finding your own connection and walking around and frolicking and, maybe even laying in the grass or laying on the ground and just really connecting with nature. And I know there's so many studies out there that talk about like the things that trees do that will blow our minds. There's a book actually on my list. I forget what it's called, but I'll include it in my next roundup of books. I want to say it's The Secret Life of Trees, maybe. That would be a good continuation of this book. But this was in the library. It stood out to me. It was jumping out at me. And you guys know that's how I pick my books at the library. So I'm so excited to continue to dive into this one. So those are the books I'm reading this spring. Feel free to share in the comments what books you are reading, or if you've read any of these, what your takeaways were. What did you like? What did you not like? Or any other recommendations you have for me in terms of books or videos you'd like to see from me. And I hope you're using this springtime to really tune into that renewing energy, and such a beautiful time to process a rebirth of ourselves, maybe incorporating new habits or cleaning things out, but really just tap into that energy the way that feels right to you. Give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'm sending you all so much love, all the high vibes, and I will see you in the next video.